Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Mary.
Welcome to Chatterbox Box, an F1 podcast.
Box.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Chatterbox Box, where Emily and I talk about all things Formula One.
Yes, welcome back. I think this is our 5th episode. It's interesting. We're getting so along in the episodes that I had to think for a second about what number this is. So that's so exciting.
I'm so excited. We're going to hit double digits very soon.
Yeah, I think we should hit double digits like before the season even starts, which is so exciting.
Oh, shut up. That's awesome.
I know. We have a jam-packed episode this week. There wasn't as much news this week, but we do have a decent amount of things to talk about. And then for our fun activity this week, we are going to randomize the grid. So stay tuned for that. But let's kick it off with the news. What do you have down for the significant news this week?
Okay, so I'm so excited. I'm wearing my Ferrari merch for a reason. I am celebrating Charles Leclerc re-signing with Ferrari. This is really awesome news, especially because he is so loyal to Ferrari. It was a given, but just having that confirmed and validated just makes it all the better. So I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I think it's a running kind of contract, so we don't know exactly when it's going to end, but I'm pretty sure that Charles will be staying with Ferrari until he gets that World Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, I think they didn't even say how many years. They just said many more years to come. I have mixed feelings. Like, I think obviously at this point, Charles is Ferrari to me. I can't really see him on any other team, but Ferrari has not been that great to him. So part of me wants to see him go to a different team. However, I don't really think there's anywhere for him to go this year other than Ferrari. Obviously, I think Red Bull's set, and I'm pretty sure Mercedes is set for the year. So it makes sense to stay at Ferrari. I was kind of surprised that he agreed to a multi-year deal, though.
I agree, and not to lose the spotlight on Charles, I'm confused about Carlos. Are we getting a Carlos re-signing? I would love to see the duo action again for at least another season.
His contract is up in 2024. At the end of this season, he'll have to find somewhere else to go. The reason I think the negotiations are taking so long is because I don't think he wants to sign a multi-year deal like Charles is. Audi is coming in 2026, and I think there's a lot of talks about Carlos going to Audi. And I have heard that people are speculating he's trying to get a 2-year deal with Ferrari so that he can finish out his time at Ferrari and then go to Audi. But apparently there may be like some resistance in Ferraris. Maybe we just want to give you 1 year versus 2. So yeah, I don't know. I think Charles is obviously Ferrari's main guy. He's their main priority. And I think maybe that's a little frustrating for Carlos. So I don't think he will long-term be at Ferrari.
I agree with you. I'm excited for this upcoming season with both of them on the Ferrari team. I think there was also speculation around like Ferrari in general that they were holding off to re-sign Carlos because they were also interested in Lando. But personally, and this kind of pivots to the next news of re-signing, like I don't imagine Lando being anywhere else other than McLaren. And I think that kind of solidifies my assumption because he signed, I think, at least a 3-year contract with McLaren. And that would mean that McLaren is kind of locked in with Lando and Oscar for the next 3 seasons, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I think the way it's set up right now, it feels like Charles is Ferrari's main guy and Lando is McLaren's main guy. I think we'll probably talk more about this in our predictions episode, but I think that McLaren's on the up and up. I really think we're going to see them have a very successful next few seasons. They were doing really well at the end of 2023. So I don't think Lando's going anywhere. I don't know who else they would put on Ferrari other than Carlos. I have heard a lot of speculation that they may be looking at Alex Albon. So I actually would love a Charles and Alex Albon duo. I think what's interesting with the grid is that everybody's kind of similar in age. So they tend to want to have this dynamic, I feel like, of a more experienced driver and then a younger, more rookie driver. But at the moment, everyone is kind of in that same age group, other than, we have Fernando and Lewis and Carlos, and then we have the rookies with Oscar and Logan. Other than that, everybody else is kind of like in that same general, almost like cohort of joining F1. So I'm interested to see what they're going to end up doing, because if they do bring Alex Albon to Ferrari, I am curious about what the dynamic would be, because I think Alex is a phenomenal driver and I would hate to see him delegated to a second driver role.
I agree. And I think Alex is becoming stronger and stronger. We definitely saw that in the previous season, where he essentially helped the team move up in their standings, especially towards like the later end of the season. So it would be, I think, for me, a little bit disappointing to put him in that position where he might not be as prioritized as like the main driver. Even though I love Charles, I would just be a little bit sad about that pairing.
Yeah. So speaking of some other team news, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls is official. We talked a lot about that last week, so I don't know if we really have much else to say, but we were speculating, like, is this the final name? Is it official? It is official. So they will be Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, although all the pictures say Visa Racing Bulls Cash App. So still unsure about the structure of the wording, but the name appears to be official.
It is very interesting as well because they're using RB instead of Racing Bulls, and I'm not sure what that stands for. Is it Visa Cash App Red Bulls, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls? So we'll have to see. Maybe it is just RB, which I don't really love that because I don't like acronyms as much, but it is what it is. It is official. They definitely had a lot of fun with the release of the new name, but yeah, super exciting. I think it'll make it a little bit difficult for the announcers, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, and then in the realm of the fun, like reputation style, Beyonce lemonade style drops that F1 is really leaning into, Ferrari dropped this mysterious announcement this week. I want to say it was Tuesday. They announced Monday, at this time on Tuesday, we'll be dropping a special announcement. And then they dropped this whole little advertisement with lots of ocean imagery and stuff, and didn't really clearly say what it is. But I did some digging. It looks like Ferrari may be getting into boat racing. So that would be really cool. I still don't think they've elaborated on that, so I'm still not really sure. They kind of just dropped this like vague announcement and then never really talked about it again. But I think the general consensus was boat racing. So that was some interesting news this week.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I don't think it's F1 related because the story basically stemmed from the main Ferrari account, and the other like sister accounts started sharing it as well. So I think it's not related to Formula One, but super interesting. So could be boat racing. And if it is boat racing, is this something we should be getting into?
Listen, I don't know, because I tried to get into Formula E this weekend. And I think as certified non-sports girlies, we've talked about this before, we're both generally not sports fans. So trying to open up my brain to being an F1 fan takes a lot of space in my brain, honestly. I don't know if I have any more room in my brain to develop an interest in another sport such as boat racing. So I do not think I will be following Ferrari's potential boat racing career. What about you?
Yeah, I can't say that I would be totally interested in the boat racing side. I think the best that I could do is probably getting into the other racing kind of sports. So I'm actually really curious to hear about your first experience about Formula E. But before we get into that, the last F1 related news item that I wanted to talk about is the fact that F1 trademarked Chicago Grand Prix variations. So things like Chicago Grand Prix of Chicago, things like that. And I have a couple of questions. What are your thoughts as an American fan about having another location in the States for Formula One?
I think I have mixed feelings, mixed thoughts, because it makes sense to have multiple US races and try to really capitalize on the US market, because Formula One is really growing a lot in the US right now due to, I think, a lot of the popularity on TikTok and from Drive to Survive. So it makes sense to want to capitalize on that. And then I also think about how big the US is. Like, we live in the same state, but to get to you is 6 hours away. Whereas I feel in Europe, you can probably drive through a few different countries in 6 hours. So it makes sense to have multiple US Grand Prix. This may be too many, I think. We already have three. If they keep Miami, if they keep Vegas, I don't think Coda's going anywhere. I think Coda's like pretty permanent. This may be too many, because I've also heard talks of like Atlantic City GP. So, like, how many like US GPs are we going to have, and is it going to be at the expense of some of the other countries? Because I can imagine we can't just keep adding, like, this year there's 24. Is there going to be 25 next year, 26 the next year? I think that would be really taxing on the drivers. So while I do selfishly want some more US races that are closer to our time zones and not so early or not in the middle of the night, I think it may be too much. What do you think?
I definitely agree with you. I think we're bordering on the edge of maybe too many US locations for these races, especially as we're thinking about the fact that in the 2024 season, we're going to have 24 races, and that's already so daunting. So I'm curious to see if maybe this is just a precautionary trademark. Maybe there's just like conversations happening on what Grand Prix in Chicago would look like. So maybe it's not going to be an immediate change, but that would be really interesting, I think, for me, just to have a better understanding of like where this is going. Selfishly, I would love to have a Grand Prix in Chicago because it's a little bit closer to us in terms of the location of the city and the states. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm excited to see like where Formula One is going to go, but I don't want it to come at a loss to the European countries.
Yeah, I think there's also a very short window of time when they could pull off a Chicago Grand Prix, because like they tend to get a lot of snow there. So I really think they can only do that between maybe like May and, I don't know, October. But October is usually Coda, Vegas, so they could maybe add it to that little leg of US, Canada, Mexico, South America. I think, honestly, I would really rather see a GP in Africa before getting another one in the US, because it would be cool to add another continent. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. But I'm also curious, like, if we were to have a Chicago Grand Prix, what kind of circuit do you think it would be? Because I imagine that it would be like mainly street circuits. And that's definitely not something that the rest of the fans are really enjoying at the moment. I think they're all emphatically saying no more street circuits. Yes, they can be exciting, but it would just be so hard to overtake in like street circuits.
Yeah, I think another piece of news this week was that they announced that Madrid will now have a GP, and that is going to be partially an established track and partially a street circuit. The street circuit is going around like a convention center, so it's not even really like exciting street circuit. I'm not sure why they decided to do that. I would assume that if they did a Chicago GP, it would be a street circuit. I personally do like a street circuit because I think it's cool to imagine where they are as like a normal everyday road that you're driving on. That's really cool. I can imagine it's miserable for people living there. I think everybody in Vegas was like, this is awful. Yeah, I don't know. I think it probably would be a street circuit, but I'm also like, we really don't need more street circuits. I think I'd rather have a developed multi-use track that could be used for other motorsports as well.
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea of street circuits just because it it's like more easily relatable in the sense that you can see the location and the environment and you can have a better understanding of what that circuit looks like. But yeah, definitely very difficult to do, especially just thinking of the locals and all of that. So less street circuits. I do like the hybrid approach of Madrid just because you have that conventional track situation, but also pulling in like that street circuit like environment. But at the same time, I don't know, like I'm a traditionalist, I think, at heart.
Yeah, I think a big part of this is Formula One trying to move towards their sustainability campaign. So if they're doing a street circuit, people can take public transportation to get there. You don't have to have, I don't know how many people typically attend a Grand Prix, but you don't have to have 20,000 people driving to an off-site location that's typically a little bit out of the city. So I wonder if that's a big part of why they're moving towards street circuits, is the lessened carbon impact of everybody driving. But I would imagine that all of the stuff that goes into setting it up, I don't know if it's really weighing each other out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I guess on the topic of sustainability, do you want to talk about how your first experience watching Formula E went?
Wow, what a great segue. Yeah, so Formula E this weekend, it was round 2 and round 3 in Diriyah. I did not watch round 1. I was debating if I even wanted to watch Formula E because, like I said, it is a lot to take in all these additional Formula motorsports. So I was debating if I wanted to get into it. I'm still really learning about the technical side of F1. So I was like, do I really have the brain space to try to learn about a new sport? But I did it. I watched it. I actually really, really enjoyed it. It was a very enjoyable time. The cars are cute. There's no other way to describe them. Like the sound they make is really cute. It's a cool endeavor. They've been net zero carbon impacts since inception. So it's very sustainable, very focused on sustainability. Obviously, like we're fangirls at heart, right? So I'm watching the little like pre-race interviews and I was like, who is that? There is a driver in Formula E that is so dreamy. His name is Sergio Sede Camara from Brazil. Girl, I was shook. For anybody out here listening who is an ACOTAR reader, he looks like how I would imagine Rhys-Ann to look. So I was shook. That kind of really caught my interest, which sounds so fangirly, but then I watched the races and I really enjoyed them. Some things that I liked. My family, we're a big Mario Kart family. We love to play Mario Kart every time we're together. And you know, in Mario Kart, when you drive over the speed things, like you can go off the track a little bit and then you drive over the speed boosters. So they have that in Formula E. You go off the track a little bit onto this, like, maybe we can insert a video in the YouTube version so people can see what I mean. But you go off the track a little bit and you go over this like little area that boosts your speed. And then you can go past people. I heard it was actually like modeled off of Mario Kart, which is so cool. And they used to have this thing. I don't think they're doing it this season, but they used to have something called Fan Boost. So while you were watching live, you could go on their app and vote for your favorite driver, and they would get an immediate speed boost to their car, which is so cool.
That is awesome. So, as a person that hasn't watched Formula E races yet, you mentioned that the cars are just so cute. Could you provide us with the sound that Formula E cars make?
It's like a little, like it's squeaky. It's almost like a mouse. I can't even do it. We need to like insert a little sound clip or something. It doesn't sound like the loud roaring engine of an F1 car. It sounds like a little squeaky mouse. It's really cute. And the cars look cute because they have this big, the halo's a little taller. And when they go over that like attack mode little area, the halo lights up, which is so cute.
That is adorable. So I've seen on like threads that some of the folks have been comparing like F1 sounds to like a traditional vroom vroom and Formula E cars having like a new like a new sound. Is that accurate to what you have heard?
That's accurate. It's very cute. And like, I don't know, something about the cars just look cute too.
That's adorable. Maybe
Yeah.
you will have to convince me, similar to how you convinced me to watch Formula One, that I should do
Yeah.
Formula E next.
There's not as many races, luckily, so it's not as much to keep up with. I put them in my calendar to kind of see, like, if I'm around, let me put it on. Some of it does overlap with Formula One. That will be interesting to see if I can pull off watching both on those weekends. They do have a Monaco race, and interestingly enough, in the Formula E Monaco race, something that's different compared to Formula One is that they actually can overtake. The cars are a little smaller, so there's more room to get around. So I think I saw a statistic about last year that it was like something like 150 overtakes or something. I could be wrong with that number, but yeah, I'm excited to watch that. I think I'll definitely watch that one. It's on a weekend where there is no F1, so I'll want to see the difference because I think that's a frustration a lot of people have with the Monaco F1 race.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so exciting. Maybe you have convinced me. We shall see. I like to overpromise sometimes, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, no, I didn't get to that.
Yeah. Mary texted me and was like, do not try to get me into another motorsport. And I was like, girl, I'm not trying to get myself into another motorsport. And here I am.
Here you are, and you're like, oh, they're so cute and adorable, and they make cute little sounds. And then it's almost like a real life Mario Kart. I'm like, okay, check, check, check.
Yeah. It's so fun. So we'll see. I think the next one is in Brazil. So in March.
Exciting. All right. I think in other news, I wanted to have a really small tech talk. This was sent to me by a friend of mine, and basically there's a recent article on Inverse. I think the article was published January 23rd of this year, and it's this super interesting concept. So John Lepore came out with this awesome concept where he proposes the use of mixed reality headsets. So similar to the headsets where like you are like fully encompassed and see everything within that virtual reality, it's a little bit different because you can actually like portray it or like what's the word? Like it'll mix what you're seeing on the headset with like your actual environment. And this is really interesting because John Lepore uses it or like proposes that it could be used as a companion application for F1 races where you can get 3D data basically at your fingertips. So imagine multi-viewer where like you have it on your laptop or your iPad or whatever it is, and you're able to select some of the different types of dashboards that you're interested in. So whether that's a map of the track, like overall standings list of where all of your drivers are at and all of that, but basically in 3D. So personally, for me, I'm a very visual person, but even those maps that are showed are very challenging for me to understand like where exactly the drivers are. Like I understand where they are in relation, but it's very hard to visualize like how close they are. Like, are they 100 feet from each other or are they like literally neck and neck? So I think like having that 3D data where you can look down on it would just give another insight to the race. And it would almost be a little bit more informative, especially if you don't have the means to go to any of these races, especially as an American going to a European track. So yeah, it's super interesting. It is a concept, so it's not out yet, but considering that mixed reality technology is so new, I imagine that we might see this in the future.
Yeah. So this is for fans to use or it's for the teams to use?
This would be for, I think, initially for the fans, but I imagine that eventually, like, the teams would also be able to use it, especially in the paddocks. They are so advanced in their technology and they use all of this data and they already have the data kind of visualized, but having that 3D view could be really interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. Something I find as we're getting more and more into F1 is that sometimes I feel like there's not enough information for me to fully understand what's going on based off of just watching F1 TV, because you just have whatever footage they're showing you, they're usually zoomed in on one driver or zoomed out on a wider view. And then they have that little thing that goes down the side that's just showing everybody's position. And then sometimes it shows how long they've been on their tire, who has the fastest lap, stuff like that. But we both got into using multi-viewer because you can see like tire life, how long they have until the last possible time they can pit. You can see like what they're talking about on the radio, because on F1 TV you just get random little radio snippets. You can see the whole race, like what they're talking about. You can go on board with whatever drivers you want, and you get a lot more information. That's just like some of the things I've looked at. I've also looked at the map with the position where you can see who is where, like in relation to each other, because sometimes when I just see the little thing on the side on F1 TV that says someone is like 2 seconds behind, my brain needs a visual. Like, what does that mean? What is 2 seconds? So I would love to have access to more data so I can just understand a little bit more like what's going on.
Yeah, understandable. And I think this is a really good point to bring up for any of our listeners that this is like their first time hearing about multi-viewer. I believe it's only iOS or Mac OS that has this application available, but this is a really awesome tool in the sense that you can basically create like your own little dashboard and view of everything that you're interested in. So if you really only care about Lando or Max, you essentially can listen into like their you can see their footage and listen to their radio when it comes on. Or if you just want like a general view of all of the drivers and things like that, you can have it all on like in one place, like on one screen, which is really awesome.
Yeah, it does end up to be a lot, though. I'm not going to lie, because I will have the race on my TV, and then I'll have my laptop with multi-viewer. On my multi-viewer, I'm usually on board with Lewis and Danny, and then I'll have the radio thing up, and I'll have the live track positions, and then I'll have my phone up, and I'll be like texting you or texting our friends on Discord, and it's really a lot to keep track of. So if I could have that all in one place where it's all accessible, that would be really great.
I agree. Yeah, I am so stoked and excited to see like where this new technology will take us, especially as we start becoming like more involved and just more interested in Formula One and learning about what it really takes to be a driver.
Yeah. So, should we get into our fun activity of the episode with randomizing the grid?
Yes, I am so excited. I have my random sticky notes in little party cups. I'm just going to pretend that I'm a bartender and mix it up just to make sure that there's no bias here. But Emily, do you want to talk us through the steps and how we're going to randomize the grid?
So, Mary has the drivers in her cup. I have a hat with all the teams. So, I think I'm going to pick a team and then you pick out 2 drivers, and then we'll talk about our thoughts on what this would be if this actually came to fruition.
Perfect. Let's get into it.
I don't know why I feel nervous. Red Bull.
Ooh, okay.
We're starting off strong.
Wow, Red Bull. All right, I'm going to try and make not a lot of noise, but it's kind of exciting. Logan Sargeant.
No fucking way.
All right. Logan is going to be partners with Oscar Piastri.
Oh, wow. I think I hate this. I think I hate it. I don't want the 2 rookies on a team together because naturally someone is going to get picked as the prioritized driver. And I would hate to see that dynamic with the 2 rookies. But Logan and a Red Bull, That would just be a meme. Like, that would slay so much.
I'm actually a little bit excited, a little bit concerned because they are the two rookies of Formula One. I think Oscar is extremely strong. He has been doing so well in his first official season. Logan got us a point, which is really exciting. We can't discount that. Maybe the partnership would be interesting in the fact that Oscar would kind of be Red Bull's main guy, but Logan would have huge mentorship opportunities and learning with someone that is also new and fresh. That would just help him propel his Formula One career.
I also think having an American on the team that is dominating would be really good for their goal of increasing US viewership and US marketing. America would eat that up. Could you imagine? We could hear the US national anthem on the podium.
That's amazing.
Okay, next up. I don't know if we can top that one. That was really interesting. But let's see. We have Aston Martin.
Okay, Aston Martin. We have Esteban Ocon at Aston Martin with Pierre Gasly.
Pierre would be so mad. Like, Pierre would be like, oh my God, I got this offer. I could go to this slightly better team. And oh, great. Esteban's coming along again.
They are going to be like head to head with each other, and they are just going to constantly fight. I don't know if they've been able to make up since their past tensions, but I don't think realistically that like anyone would ever pair them together ever again.
Yeah, and I don't know if going to Aston Martin is really that big of a step up from being at Alpine. Aston Martin was really dominating at the beginning of the 2023 season. Fernando was on the podium like pretty often, but then they kind of dipped down. So I don't really know if they're like significantly a better move than being at Alpine. Maybe if one of them, just one of them, not both of them, got to switch to Aston Martin and be like the main driver. Because I think on Alpine, they're pretty equal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would be worried for Aston Martin if this was an actual pairing.
Well, you know, honestly, it just keeps getting better and better. Let's see.
It really does.
What's next? We have Alpine. So who's in Alpine now that Pierre and Esteban have vacated the team?
All right. We have Nico Hülkenberg with Fernando Alonso.
Oh, okay.
I kind of like that pairing, actually. Like, you have Fernando Alonso, who's, you know, a little bit more senior. He's been in Formula One for quite some time. Nico, kind of the same, but he's a little bit younger. And this is really interesting because with his like time at Haas, I feel like this would just give him an opportunity to really shine and have someone alongside him to be like, not necessarily mentoring him, but just pushing him to be the very best that he could.
Yeah, I think Fernando has the potential to really bring out Nico's personality the way that Danny did, because Fernando is such an extroverted, like, troll meme kind of guy. So I think it would be really funny social media content. I kind of like it. I think they both look good in, like, the Alpine pink and blue combo.
Oh my gosh, especially with the camo. I think they would look good in the pink camo.
Yeah, okay. You know, I support this. I support it. I really do.
Make it happen.
Period. Let's see what is next. Oh, I really folded this one up tight. Visa Cash App Racing Bulls.
Okay.
I swear, this could be so funny. Whoever comes out.
All right, V-Carb. Valtteri Bottas.
Okay.
Yuki Tsunoda.
Oh. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine, I guess.
I feel like Bottas would have so much fun at VCarb. And I think potentially he would bring out like Yuki's playful side. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot more to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know if I see Bottas going to VCarb because it's a Red Bull affiliated brand and he was at Mercedes for so long. And I just have this like headcanon that there's like deep Mercedes Red Bull beef and that it would be like a betrayal to go there. So I don't think I can see this. I feel underwhelmed by this randomized pairing.
Where do you imagine Bottas would go if you had the choice?
I'm gonna be so for real. I really like. I think we'll probably talk more about this in our predictions episode, but I don't think Bottas will be around much longer. He doesn't seem to. I mean, like, he seems to care about racing, but outside of F1, he has so many passions going on that I'm genuinely surprised he's still here. I thought he would have left to go be like a professional bike rider or something, bike racer, whatever the term is. I thought he would have done that by now. So I don't know.
Yeah, this one was really tricky for me because as much as I see Bottas as a driver, I'm also seeing how passionate he is in other areas. And you're right, I don't really see him like pursuing Formula One as a career for that much longer. I'm thinking maybe a season or two, and we'll obviously get into it like in our predictions for 2024.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Yuki and Bottas will have some fun together in the near term.
Yeah. And obviously Yuki's already on VCarb, so like cool, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Yuki would just be the main driver. He did stay in like first position for quite some time in, is it Abu Dhabi or?
That's one of those races.
One of those races, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but there's also something that feels wrong about having Valtteri be the second driver when he consistently was performing well like the entire time he was at Mercedes. If I was him, I'd be offended.
I feel that. That's valid.
But I don't know if he would really care because he has such a full life outside of racing. He might just be like, yeah, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, it could be. It's interesting because Yuki likes driving, but ultimately he would want to be a chef. So like maybe these two would just like enjoy their time as a driver, as a hobby, and then they're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
We have McLaren.
McLaren. Oscar's gone. Are they going to full Lando? We'll see.
What does the universe decide?
All right. Sergio Perez.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm still imagining I don't remember his name, but the announcer in Vegas. Sergio Perez. All right. So McLaren does not get Lando. They get Sergio, Checo, and Kevin Magnussen.
Okay, actually, I can see this because in my mind, I just created this whole dramatic storyline. Think like when Danny left Red Bull because he was tired of being second to Max. Checo is like, fuck this. I am a supreme driver. Lando left to go to like Audi or something. And Checo is like, I'm going to McLaren. I'm going to give them a chance. They've been doing really well. I'm tired of being the second driver to Max. And then he goes off to McLaren and he wins the World Driver Championship. And it's like McLaren's first WDC in like years.
Wow.
I think did I just write Checo fan fiction?
I think you did. Are you also predicting like 2025 or something?
I guess so.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. This seems so out of pocket that I would love to see it happen in like 2025 or 2026. I don't have a lot to say about Kevin, but I would love to see Checo as like the main driver, just having a big FU to Red Bull and just being like, you know what? I am a good driver. So we're going to make it happen. And then K-Mag can just be, chilling in the background. You can hang out with the family.
I actually think that Kevin is like the perfect partner for Checo. I think Kevin's a good driver, but I wouldn't say Kevin would really necessarily be competing with Checo. I think this is a hot take, but I actually think Checo is like a phenomenal driver. I always think of that one episode of Drive to Survive where he was about to lose his seat and then he did a truly phenomenal drive, and that's what inspired Red Bull to be like, let's bring him over. I think he hasn't been performing that great in 2023. There's been a lot of criticism, but I also have a lot of empathy for the pressure he must be under to be the second driver to Max and be held to Max's standard, because Max is almost like alien level good. Like he's like superhuman. So I would love to see him like thriving and being prioritized at another team. I think that would be great.
I agree. Yeah, I can see that pairing. I'm happy with that pairing.
Okay, moving on. We got Mercedes.
Lewis is still in here somewhere.
I know. I thought Lewis, I was worried he was going to go to Visa Cash at Racing Bulls.
I would be scared. We have Max Verstappen at Mercedes with Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh my God. I'm shocked. I had to collect myself for a minute there.
Me too.
I would never in my lifetime see Max at Mercedes. No, because as I said earlier in the episode, I just have this headcanon that there's this deep Mercedes Red Bull beef and you can't go from Mercedes to Red Bull or vice versa. However, I know that Daniel is part of the Red Bull family, but I could see him at Mercedes because Daniel's loved by everyone and they'd make an exception for him.
I agree. Max being at Mercedes is extremely shocking. I can maybe see this down the line, maybe when Lewis is no longer a part of F1 and he's retired and they need to find someone else. But I think Max is also extremely loyal to Red Bull, especially because they helped him get to where he is now. That's not to say that the cars make the drivers, but it's just the fact that both Max and the car and the team work so well together. I can't imagine that. But Max and Danny, they're cute together. Danny just makes Max very enjoyable.
Yeah, I am not a Max fan at all, as people can probably tell. However, when I watch the little videos of him and Danny together, I actually find myself smiling and enjoying it. So I would like to see them as teammates again. I do think that will happen, but not at Mercedes.
No, not at Mercedes.
Okay, well, that was an absolute shocker. I'm really anxious to see where Lewis Hamilton is going. So our next team is Haas.
Okay. I'm curious about this. At Haas, we have Lando Norris and Alex Albon.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a big step down for both of them. I'm so sorry. That was so mean, but it's a no for me.
Who would even be considered the main driver? I think they are both awesome contenders. And
I think they're both going to suck in a Haas.
Yes, and they're both young. They both want that championship in their hands. I don't like it. I don't have...
I'd only enjoy this if they brought back Gunther, because I think seeing Lando and Gunther interact for some reason would be very funny. But otherwise, no. I'm against this.
Bring back Gunther. Let him be the principal for both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be good content.
It would be. Okay, well, we're just going to forget that would ever happen because that was hurtful to me. Next up, we have Ferrari. Is Charles still in there?
We didn't pick Charles still in there. All right.
And Carlos.
and Carlos. What if we're just like calling it and it's both of them? All right. Lewis Hamilton. Oh, if this isn't Charles, I'm going to cry. Lance Stroll.
Lewis Hamilton and Lance Stroll to Ferrari.
Ferrari. Oh my God.
I actually really love the idea of Lewis at Ferrari if Ferrari was doing well. I think there were some rumors going around this season that Lewis to Ferrari. Again, I think at this point that would be a step back for him. I wouldn't say Ferrari is doing significantly better than the Mercedes. I would put them equal, or maybe Ferrari a little less, because I think Ferrari's strategy is worse than Mercedes' strategy. I don't think that Lance is going to Ferrari unless his dad buys that team too, but I don't think they're looking for sponsors. So sorry. I don't think that's going to happen. That was maybe kind of mean.
Yeah, I don't see it happening at Ferrari. I don't see Lewis going anywhere else either. I think he's going to stay with Mercedes and he's going to retire with Mercedes. I think that's just going to happen. With Lance Stroll, I'm not sure. I don't have nice thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think that there is some sort of narrative around all the great drivers who have once driven for Ferrari, and Lewis is the only one who hasn't yet. So maybe if Ferrari really gets their shit together and they're a serious contender for first place, I could see him maybe considering ending his career there. But I think he does seem really dedicated to just finishing out his time with Mercedes and being part of the development to make the car better there and more suited to him.
I agree. Right.
Okay, well, sorry to Lance, but
yeah,
I don't have much else to say about that. So I think we only have 2 teams. Yeah, we only have 2 teams left.
Wow.
So our second to last team, Steak Kick, F1
Kick.
team, Steak F1 team kick, whatever.
All right. I swear. We have George Russell.
Okay.
Carlos. George and Carlos.
Okay. I think George and Carlos both get pushed into this second driver role kind of unfairly, because I think that they're both really, really great drivers. I think George, it makes sense, wait your time. I'm sure Mercedes will prioritize George once Lewis retires. Mm-hmm. But Carlos is a little older than Charles, so sometimes I feel sad for him that he doesn't get prioritized by Ferrari. And I personally would say that they're pretty equal in skill. I know that's kind of a hot take, but I don't see any significant differences between the two of them in terms of skill. So it would be kind of sad to put these 2 people that I think get boxed into the second driver mentality and role onto a team together, where one of them is going to have to end up being the second driver, and it's not really a good team. But they would hang out with Drake maybe, so that could be a perk.
That could be a perk. I think the 2 of them would get along quite swimmingly. I think Carlos paired with anyone on the grid is not necessarily wholesome, but I think Carlos brings out the sense of comfort. He is your go-to best friend where you talk about anything and everything, and he will be a very comforting presence. So I can see that pairing. I don't know if I would see the pairing at Stake. That's a really good point, that they are kind of seen as the second driver, the support character with the other drivers. So it would be sad to see that one of them would maybe have to be second place. However, they are both really strong drivers. So maybe it would push Stake Kick to go higher into the championship, and maybe the both of them would not necessarily take that first place, but they would eventually push the whole team.
Yeah, and I think they both have pretty matching energy now that I'm thinking about it. I always say Carlos has the vibe of a Disney prince. George has this very princely, posh energy. So I think they'd be an interesting duo for like socials and media and stuff. But yeah, like you said, I don't know about them being on stake.
I agree.
So I think this is our last one. I feel like my brain should have been like mathing while we did this, so I know what the last team is, but I genuinely have no clue. And I haven't like caught up to think like, oh, what are the 2 drivers left? So this is actually going to be a surprise for me.
Okay.
So the last one is Williams.
Williams.
And who's going to Williams?
I know we haven't picked Charles yet, just because I'm like, yeah, where is my boy going?
Oh.
But we have Charles and Zhou Guanyu.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think that Williams has the potential for a resurgence. And, you know, they once used to be like very, very, very good. So I think they have the potential for a comeback. And there would be something very satisfying to me about Charles leaving behind this dream that he has at Ferrari that has not been serving him, going to Williams and then doing really well. But I would hate if Charles was to give up his dream of Ferrari, take a chance on another place or take a chance on another team and not do well, like be doing worse than he was doing at Ferrari. So I have like mixed feelings about this.
I have mixed feelings too. If Charles can win either like team championship or like world drivers championship, I would wholeheartedly support that. I think he deserves the very best. And I believe he's an awesome driver and has like the right mentality for it. And I think Zhou is like super happy to be like where he is. Like, I don't think he thinks he's like the best driver. Like, obviously, because he's in F1, he's a wonderful driver. But in comparison to Charles, I think that kind of comes a little bit more naturally in the sense that like Charles can be like the main driver and Zhou would essentially support him. But let's talk about like how Charles might have a fashion glow up because of Zhou. The social media content, I think, would be immaculate. And I think I've heard Charles saying that he loves to experiment with his style and things like that. And just having someone that is so comfortable in his own style, I think would really help elevate that and help Charles try new things.
Yeah, I would love them as a duo. Like, I would very much love that. I think they both look like high-end models. Like, the media we would get would be amazing. The photo shoots would be like, let me print this out and put this on my wall. I would love it. That would be great.
Yes, I'm happy with that pairing, and I would be pretty hopeful with the 2 of them at Williams.
Yeah, I could see it. So I think this was a lot of fun. We got some surprises, some not so great ones. I would love to know, my question of the episode for the listeners is, if you could pick any 2 drivers to go together and what team they're going to, what would you pick?
That is a good question. We would both love to hear from all of you. So please make sure to reach out to us in the comments or wherever you can find us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Threads.
Yeah, and I think that's it for this episode. We're looking forward to next week, and we're creeping more and more up to the beginning of the season. So really excited for that. We have some livery reveals coming up soon. We have Drive to Survive coming up soon. We're going to be doing our 2024 season predictions. And we're also going to talk about like a 2023 season recap and what from 2023 we're predicting will be on Drive to Survive. So that will be a fun episode. So stay tuned. Eventually the book club will come back. And yeah, thanks so much for listening. I think that's it for today.
Thanks, everyone. Over and out.
Bye.
Bye, F1 world.
No, not yet, not yet.
Oh no, I'm saying like bye for today.